Indeed, why am I always focusing on something? Do I really need to do this? On one hand, it seems necessary because, as I said, when we were developing, we were taught to concentrate. At school, we were taught to do homework. Focus on the task, solve it. By focusing on achieving certain results in life, in a profession, in relationships with people, I was always setting myself the condition that I needed to concentrate my attention on something. But what gathers attention is an illusory construct. Look, today you slept, were you someone? Yes, if you slept today, well, before that you slept. It's a very good moment to really analyze, were you really someone there in the dream? Well, yes, but who were you in the dream? No, what you see there is one thing, but who were you there? You are making it up now. Were there roles? It's a very important moment to look at, indeed. There are no roles there. Roles can jump around as they please. There is no fixed person participating. That's why the dream is flexible. So you can be someone there and even change. The source of attention, see as an animal, see as another person, see as no one, just as an event. In a dream, this fixed character is absent. Interestingly, one of the magical practices is to return a fixed character to the dream. So now you have a fixed character, for example, listening to me, but in a dream you don't have such a fixed character. And there are practices that teach you how to become conscious in a dream. But not conscious, rather to gather a certain perspective, a point of assembly. Here it is created automatically, but there it, yes, let's go slowly. Yes, there it is absent. It is smeared across the plot. There is no such thing where you can say, this is me in the dream. I am acting now. I have such tasks. And moreover, in the dream, say that there is, you see, we have a gathered person here. And he says, I was also in the dream. But in the dream, to gather such a person who says, and I also have wakefulness. That is, in the dream, you remember that you have wakefulness. Well, these are very rare events that are mostly accidental and spontaneous. But for it to be as purposeful as you are sitting now, well, I remember my dream. And you can even now, as you are there, analyze what roles you were in and so on. Yes, yes. Now we have such a gathered character. But in the dream, there is no such gathered character. You can't even remember who you were in the dream. It's a set of some abstractions, or on the contrary, locations associated with different forms of perception. So look, the whole focus of this inverted universe is that in a dream you need to create a location and become someone. And here, on the contrary, dismantle the location and become like in a dream. So one of the main practices, I didn't focus on it before. On the contrary, I always said, gather, I am, who am I? But there, if someone has read Castaneda, they know they have a concept of defocusing attention. And defocusing attention is trained very simply. So now I am sitting and kind of scattered across the horizon. I see the sky, the earth, and here you are, but I don't see any of you specifically. I see the whole situation as a whole. I'm like no one. I have no opportunity because you see someone appears when I concentrate on something. Then I immediately evaluate. A person looks like this, resembling someone, whether they resemble someone from memory. And if I lose concentration, then that attention is gone. That is, it's as if I'm in a dream. And at that moment, when I perceive everything as a whole with unfocused attention, I don't have that main problematic plot called the internal dialogue. That is, I have nothing to discuss because my attention is not processing any motives. And the most interesting thing is that learning to be present in the world in this way is a very good support. Look, I say here, dream and reality are kind of reversed. In a dream, you need to return the personality and become aware in the dream. And here, on the contrary, you need to stop commenting with the mind and become the entire space immediately. Hello? Yes, yes. So there's the studio. You can take a seat somewhere along the wall. There we are like awakened beings, but the only problem there is that we are spread out over our energies, which we lost here in the waking state. And we lost these energies here in the waking state because we were localized and kind of served that passion which was gathered by attention. And in order to return energy from this passion, we again find ourselves in this spread out state in a dream. And the dream exists to do a review and return the energy back. Because otherwise, by the end of the day, you see, you get very tired. You have no energy. Sleep is needed to return energy. But it also reviews you back and returns you to that natural state when you are everything. This is how the return of energy happens. So, if you achieve this unfocused state, yes, come in, come in. No, no, no. There are chairs at the back. Take a few at once. And if you learn to realize this unfocused state here, the whole secret is that when you are in an unfocused state, it doesn't mean you can't do things. On the contrary, all things are done precisely in this state. Here's another trick. Look. We think that to do things, we need this old model. We need to become a personality and concentrate attention, like in school, right? To do tasks. No. At this moment, unfortunately, a personality appears and it brings a loss of energy into the tasks. Because it starts to worry, to fret. Will it work out? Won't it? Will I succeed? Won't I? How will I be judged? That is, this personality drags along this commentator. If you are like in a dream, in an unfocused state, you just do the task. You don't have someone who worries about it. And then your tasks become like they glide. That is one after another, and these tasks become perfect. Well, just like in a dream, you don't control it, but energy is returned to you in a perfect way. After sleep, you wake up again, and there you are, nobody. There you are, like a vacuum cleaner in those places where you lost energy, you suck it back into yourself. And accordingly, if you learn to live in this world as in a dream, and in a dream as in a waking state, you become a magician. Well, that's the lure with this, with Castaneda, for example. That a magician is not someone who does magical things, but someone who is within themselves. In a dream, they are within themselves because, look, the beauty of a dream is that when you remember who you are in a dream, incredible opportunities open up for you because at that moment, the ego doesn't spend energy because it has no personal obligations to anyone. For example, at this moment, they can do a very powerful meditation. A very powerful view. There's a chair or you can sit with the one with you. You can do concentration because in a dream, nothing distracts you. You have no personal context. There are fathers or mothers who evaluate, employers who have to pay you, and you can enter meditation very deeply. Because at that moment, the body, as the focus of previous experience, is asleep, but you become the eye, and vice versa. Being in this world, you can perform such deconcentration, and then your actions become impeccable. That is, impeccable actions are not when you compress all your energy and direct it at them, but when you become the whole world and then you hear it, it tells you, turn right, do this. that is access to intuition, to divine presence begins to open. And therefore, learning this presence, I say, is done simply. Just train yourself. As you walk down the street, become like the movement. And this is how Castaneda taught. Just do not focus on objects, but look at the horizon as a whole. And at that moment, like a very good moment, it's like when you're driving, when you've already practiced and are a driver, you don't look at the details at that moment. You're driving and you automatically react to all the processes. So at that moment, there are two good things for enlightenment. One is technical driving and the other is fishing. By the way, I'll tell you a secret. In the Shiva Puranas, when Parvati was dull, Shiva told her, you need to go fishing. And she was born into a fisherman's family, because when you're fishing, you sit there with the float and are completely scattered. That is, it seems like you're concentrating, but in fact, at that moment, you're deconcentrating. And peripheral vision opens up some special ranges of your perception, which are blocked when you're constantly processing something, I say, blocked precisely by this anxiety, whether it will work out or not. Because where we are concentrated, we always had an evaluation from society. That is, society always demanded that I receive encouragement and avoid punishment. Therefore, I am always anxious, whether I will succeed, whether I will be paid or not. If you are unfocused, you do the task just like driving a car, only you are not distracted by anything. But on the contrary, you hear these universal hints. Therefore, there are two things. As I say, learn, sit on a chair, take it. Learn to return yourself in a dream to a state as if you are in a personality. And there you control the dream. Understand, yes? Because in a dream, exactly, there are many ranges that are blocked here when you are in the body. Well, for example, right? In the body, I cannot fly. But there you say, I can fly, and just like that, you take off, or here in the body, it tells you I cannot concentrate on the I, but there you do, and since there is no body, you are no one, but there is concentration, so you reach the pure I am. And the experience of meditation in a lucid dream is very helpful because such a depth of consciousness is usually very difficult to achieve in waking consciousness. And there practically samadhi occurs, that is this very deep, pratyahara in fact is dreaming, that is where the energies of your sensory states are reviewed. And the second moment is, on the contrary, in this world, this feeling, you've had it, that is when you work for a long time, suddenly there's such a taraxia, you perceive nothing, as if such a rest occurs, or there, I don't know. Dug and dug potatoes. Last weekend I stood up and we have such a good horizon opening up, a river, and froze in this. And you really understand everything. You really dissolve and all this energy returns to you. Well, such moments.